The danger is that with that is we can find ourselves drawn into all kinds of rabbit holes that aren't necessarily leading us to Wonderland. They're just rabbit holes that can be time sucks or money sucks and drain us away from the work that we're here to do.
Most people are looking for that perfect tool. My perspective is it's much like going to the hardware store and buying new tools for a project. There's not just one tool that you need to buy. You need to buy the toolbox.
How can this technology make us better human beings in the first place, right? And that doesn't happen by saying, oh, make me a diet plan, write me an email, create a copy for my sales page. That starts by saying, well, look, how am I thinking about this problem? Help me to see it from different perspectives, from different angles.
AI isn't here to replace what you do or even to make what you do easy. It's here to be a collaborative partner.
The tech that's appropriate today will not guaranteed be the tech that's appropriate tomorrow or in a week or in 6 months or in a year. My encouragement to everybody is to then lean in to the curiosity energy of, well, what is this thing? Is it going to kill us? Is it going to take away our jobs? Is it going to change our lives? Is it going to change the world as we know it?
Hi, and welcome to the AI Transformation Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Mast, and today I'm thrilled to have Colin Scotland with me. Colin and I chatted recently, and boy, we hit it off. We were having a great conversation, and we're like, before we keep going, we really need to press the record button and do a podcast. And so that's what we're doing today. In fact, tomorrow we're reversing and we're continuing that discussion on Colin's podcast. So if you're catching either his episode or mine, please watch the other as a continuation of kind of this conversation. Colin, for those that aren't familiar with you, can you kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and who you serve?
Of course, yeah. So I call myself an AI integration coach, Jonathan, and I love working with people that are looking to change the world in the work that they do. So I'm a super spiritual guy, and so those people that are really driven by a sense of higher purpose in their work. I work with spiritual teachers, with a lot of coaches and creators that are really feeling like they're fulfilling their life's mission through their work, and that covers a broad spectrum, but it is such an interesting and fulfilling journey. I have been in a previous life a marketing coach, specifically building, the whole building online businesses world of funnels and all of that. You and I have both been around the block, so to speak, in that world, and then more recently, when ChatGPT came out in November 22, Jonathan, I had one of those jaw drops to the floor moments when I thought, holy smokes, like the world is going to never be the same again. And at that moment, I knew that I had to completely change my approach, and I went all in on AI back then and never looked back ever since, which brought me to where I am today, man.
Well, I love hearing that realization in 2022. My story is very similar. It was the fall of 2022, just before ChatGPT had been released. I am running a digital marketing agency, and people on a mastermind call that I'm on, not one I'm running, but a mastermind I'm part of, start talking about this new ChatGPT thing that's coming out, and they're all excited. And I'm like, it sounds to me, they didn't explain it. I heard chat and I thought, oh, this is another web chat tool. We've already got one that works really well. I'm not that interested. It came out, and then I'm like, oh, it wasn't what I thought. So I went and tried it out. And literally, like the third or fourth time I did something with it, I'm like, oh, wow, this is going to be like electricity. This is going to change everything. There is no going back. It was one of those realizations that this is one of those things that happens in life, and you're part of, and you're kind of riding that wave, and you're like, we can't go back. The genie's out of the bottle at this point. It's like, when I didn't understand cell phones when I was in high school, because I had never had one, didn't understand why somebody would want to talk on the phone on their pocket. Can you imagine today in 2025 not having access to these? No one would know what to do with their life. So I love to hear that. I love that. That's fantastic. Talk to me a little bit about, you talk about being an AI integrator and helping with that. Talk to me, what does that mean in practical language to most business people?
So the thing that I stand and fall by is the whole approach of being human first in how we adopt the technology. Because I believe that the winners of tomorrow are going to be the humans that adopt this AI from a human first approach to not necessarily replace. There's an element of AI replacing the work that we do as humans, but the biggest and the best victories in my work so far have been seen when the AI actually acts as a catalyst or an amplifier, Jonathan, an accelerator. So the work that I do, my work spans two areas. I work as a coach with coaches, creators, individuals, entrepreneurs looking to level up their skills. And I also work with corporates, basically rolling this approach that I've created out across the whole organization. And so it takes two tracks. The first track is the person, and the second track is the without. I call it the within and the without, right? So the person on the inside becoming adaptable to change. So it's very much a change management piece in that sense. And then taking that new mentality, that new mindset, that new outlook, and looking at, well, okay, how now can we become a team that uses and leverages this tech so that we can do great things in the world, you know? And it's that dual track approach that I like to play in.
You know, I love one of the things you said there, and I know I hear it probably like you a lot, Colin, and that's it. You know, there's people worried that AI is going to replace us. And while I'm sure there will be jobs that are displaced, I have no doubt about that. To me, I look at it much like the printing press. When the printing press came out, you know, people were fearful that, you know, there would never be any scribes anymore. And they might have been right. But there were so many new things that became available, like bookstores. Just as an example, you know, we didn't have bookstores before the printing press because, you know, maybe if you were really wealthy, you had a small library with a few dozen books, but people didn't have books like we do now. We didn't have the media and all that. And so I believe AI, I could go through many examples, is going to be similar in that it's going to provide more opportunities than it takes away. You and I are on one side of that. I see a lot of what I will say AI experts on the other side really predicting doom and gloom and, you know, oh my gosh, we're in trouble. How do you address that with the business owners that are your clients that you work with? And is that a fear they're seeing, or do you see that most of the businesses are on the, we're going to have some negativity, but the positives are going to so far outweigh that this is just part of technological change? Where do you see your clients fit, and how do you address that with your clients?
It's the elephant in the room, isn't it? You know, because like you and I both advocate for the use and how we can use this new technology for good to change our lives, to change the lives of those people that we serve, right? And at the same time, the default response is the fear response. The amygdala response of, what is this thing? The robots are going to take over the world. We're all going to die. Like that. It's the end of the world. You know, literally that is the initial response. And like you, I do a lot of keynotes and talks around AI and AI adoption. And there is an overwhelming amount of people living in that fear response. And that's the same with coach. I talk to a lot of coaches. That's the same in the coaching space. It's also the same in the workspace as well. You've got those people that are running with this and playing with it and experimenting. And I have teams of people coming onto the calls, and they're like, "Oh, we've done this. We've created this artifact in Claude. We've created this project and like they're literally dancing in their seat as they're explaining what they're doing. Yeah. And then other people that are like sat almost dark silhouetted going, oh, but the data this and the you know, and sitting in that very different place and a different energy around where it comes to being with AI. And this is the reason that I'm so passionate about the whole human first approach, Jonathan, because the reality is, my reaction to AI, your reaction to AI, anybody listening to this, the reaction to AI is just a reaction. It doesn't fundamentally change the fact that we are in a sea change moment in our society. And so in any moment, you could take that application to, you know, a death, a major accident, a serious event, whatever happens. There's a beautiful quote, and it's this. It says that in the moment between stimulus and response, we have a choice. And in that choice lies our growth and our freedom. And so our ability to be present with this moment right now that we're all experiencing as a civilization, being present in this and making a choice that is not driven by the fear response, that reptilian part of our brain that will have us run for the hills because we don't know what this thing is. And then rather than that, my encouragement to everybody is to then lean in to the curiosity energy of, well, what is this thing? Is it going to kill us? Is it going to take away our jobs? Is it going to change our lives? Is it going to change the world as we know it? You betcha it is. It just is, isn't it? It's like you say.
It is, absolutely.
The printing press comes out. We're no longer fighting with these big, ginormous things called newspapers anymore, That's a change in society. This change is even bigger. And so our duty as a member of this society is in how we adapt and how we respond in that moment, Jonathan. I think that's the critical bit. It's the being aware of how we're responding, because the fear response is there for a reason. And at the same time, it can also hinder our ability to adapt, to change, and to survive.
That's so good. And no, I think that's right too. And it's been interesting to me to watch different people with different responses and how they get through that. I love that. The other thing that you mentioned that I think is so critical, Colin, that I see a lot of people don't quite seem to get their arms around. And that's that AI isn't here to replace what you do or even to make what you do easy. It's here to be a collaborative partner that makes what you do easier. And there's a big difference between the proverbial easy button and the easier process that I at least believe AI comes in. How do you feel about that? Again, you talked just mentioned it very briefly that, AI as a collaborative partner as opposed to AI as a replacement.
I think it's foundational. I really, really do, because the majority of people who are experimenting with AI now, of which the most are, one of the things I do in my keynotes, Jonathan, is ask everybody to put their hand up if they're using or have used ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or one of these tools, right? And a couple of years ago, literally no hands in the room would go up. Now, every hand in the room almost goes up to say that they're using this tech.
Yes.
And then at the same time, when I ask the question and I say, keep your hand up if you've got your custom instructions set, almost all of the hands go down because the contextual information is missing from how they're using this tool. And that really is the anchor to the question, the answer to the question. So the simplest way, and the way most people are leveraging AI right now, is to say, give me an email, write me this, create this for me, do this for me, and sit back, watch the results, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
The intelligent way to use AI is exactly as you just described in that question, is to use it as I call it a co-intelligence. So how can we leverage this tool as a thinking partner? So this is linked to the within and without element, right? So how can we think better? How can this technology make us better human beings in the first place, right? And that doesn't happen by saying, oh, make me a diet plan, write me an email, create a copy for my sales page. That starts by saying, well, look, how am I thinking about this problem? Help me to see it from different perspectives, from different angles. And then when we start down that path, man, this is a level of AI use that I don't see generally across the board. I don't know about you, Jonathan. How about you?
Really the same type of thing that you're mentioning, Colin. Again, I think it's natural. Most of us start with that theory of, okay, let me ask it to write a memo. Let me ask it to help me write an email. And like you said, it's kind of like, well, I'll hand this off and see what happens. I'll hand this off and see what happens. What I'm kind of surprised at is how few people seem to then take that next step. It's almost like they're so impressed that email that I need to respond to, I can get help with, that they just go, oh, that's it. They don't think any further about it. Like you mentioned, they don't ever look at custom instructions. They don't even take the moment to figure, and I'm not trying to be difficult, but they just don't think about it. They don't go, how can I train this AI so it better understands me? Now in ChatGPT, as you mentioned, we've got custom instructions. We don't have that in some of the other models, but even there, it's so easy to have a prompt snippet or something like that that I maintain that when I'm using Gemini or I'm using Claude or even some of the Chinese models, to be able to tell it, here's who I am, so that then it can really begin becoming almost like a coworker that understands me and that works with me. So the next time when I need something done, I don't have to explain my business after I get a rotten response. I don't have to remind it what my name is after I get the wrong response or a blank insert name here. So I think I'm a little surprised that more people haven't taken that. It seems to me it's just a mental step that some people just haven't embraced yet. I don't know. That's what I see happening in the marketplace. But I do think it's so critically important, because doing those little things like the custom instructions and that turns that AI into just a generic tool that gives us generic responses into something now that really begins to understand what we do. You know, quick story. One of the things that I love using AI for is presentations. And my wife's not nearly as into AI as I am. She's into it, but not like I am. And last night I took my son to dinner. We got back from dinner and she's sitting at her desk and she's like giddy. Of course, as a husband, I love it. The wife's happy. This is great. What's going on? This is amazing. She goes, I just had this big concept that I have to present to the team, and it was going to take me a couple hours. She goes, I sat down with Claude and I just talked to it. I literally, she sees me do that. I turn on the mic and I let it transcribe. She goes, I literally just explained what I wanted. And she goes, it created this most amazing training outline. And she goes, I copy and pasted it into Gamma, and Gamma just created this, oh my goodness, presentation. And she goes, I cleaned it up in about 20 minutes. And she goes, I maybe spent 30 minutes on what I thought was going to take me 3 to 4 hours. That's the stuff that I think is so cool, because it's not just let's see what we can do here. It's taking and chaining together multiple tools. Can Claude create a slide deck? Sure. Is it going to look as good as Gamma? Probably not. So it's combining these tools, and that's actually headed down the path to our next question in my mind. It seems like most people are looking for that perfect tool, so to speak. They want that one tool that'll do everything. My perspective is it's much like going to the hardware store and buying new tools for a project. There's not just one tool that you need to buy. You need to buy the toolbox, because inside that toolbox, you're going to have multiple tools that you have for different purposes. I'd love to get your perspective as somebody that's really, especially helping with integration in companies. How do you handle that balance between one tool to do it all and a toolbox with the right tool to do it? How do you address that with your clients?
I think the best way to do that is to be tool agnostic, right? In that we don't have a preferred, we're not Microsoft partners, therefore there's a saying in marketing, isn't there, Jonathan? To a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right?
Yes, so true.
If we're sat here selling Microsoft products, then the solution will always look like a Microsoft product to us.
Yes.
Because to a hammer, everything is a nail, right? And so the approach I like to take is platform agnostic, and therefore both the way that we adopt and adapt to AI has to be universal as a process, because the landscape of the tech is like one of those fast moving conveyor belts at the airport, where you go on and you feel like you're running and you just like you're like walking really slow and you're like speeding past everybody that's walking along the walkway because you're on the conveyor belt. That landscape is just going by so fast.
Yes.
The tech that's appropriate today will not guaranteed be the tech that's appropriate tomorrow or in a week or in 6 months or in a year. So it makes sense for us to focus on the adaptability of the people to the tech and our approach, our thinking around and our processes around. And then from that place of groundedness, you can look at what's the best tool for the job. What is the best tool for the thing that we're looking to achieve? And sometimes it might be this particular product. Other times it will be that particular product. Other times it will be a product that doesn't even exist yet, but in 3 months' time when we need it, that's the one that we would be looking at. The danger I see a lot in this space, Jonathan, I don't know if you're the same, is people get in entrepreneurship, we have this phenomenon we call shiny object syndrome. Like,
guilty.
Ooh,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, me too. I'm a recovering addict, man. I'm literally, I chase every shiny object. I'm like a cat, I chase every shiny object under the sun. And so the danger is that with that is we can find ourselves drawn into all kinds of rabbit holes that aren't necessarily leading us to Wonderland. They're just rabbit holes that can be time sucks or money sucks and drain us away from the work that we're here to do. So this is why I think that platform agnostic approach, and then what's the job to be done? What's the goal that we're looking to achieve here? And then go to market and look at, like, there is an AI for that.com, like what is the best option for me right now for the job that we're trying to approach,
Absolutely. No, and I think it's good to hear, and I agree with you. It reminds me, you may not be old enough, Colin, to remember, but I know I am. I remember in the old PC days when PCs were showing up on desks, it was just as I was getting into the workforce. And there was always the argument about which is better, WordPerfect or Microsoft Word, or Lotus 123 or Microsoft Excel. And I remember the answer was always very simple. Which one was released most recently? Which had the latest update? Because whichever one had the latest update was better, but generally only by a little bit. They had one new feature, something new. And I see the exact same thing happening with AI for the most part, in that whether it's ChatGPT, whether it's Claude, whether it's Gemini, or any of the other models that are out there, there's plenty of them, the best one tends to be the most recent. As a result of that, one of the things I'm platform agnostic. You can use whatever you want. In fact, I think that we could use Meta AI as bad as I think it is in comparison to the rest of the tools. We could use it and still be light years ahead of where we would be without it. We just don't often, most of us don't look at it as a regular platform, because the other platforms are a bit better, in my opinion only, and they give us some more features. But I think we often make that mistake of going, we need that perfect tool. Like you said, we get that bright, shiny object syndrome. It's newer, it's better, whatever, as opposed to just focusing on the tool that we have in front of us and using that to make huge leaps in productivity as we go through.
Yeah. It's that's the thing. It's a capacity, like, optimizer, maximizer, amplifier. You can be so prolific now with this technology. It's frightening, the amount of things that we can do, both as individuals, and then you multiply that with a force multiplier of a team of people doing the same thing with AI. It's crazy, and it's never about which tool. It's always about how we're using the tool, I believe, and I think that's the critical piece. The tool is the tool, right? And the tool today, ChatGPT 5 just came out just before last week, didn't it? But that's the current thing right now. But by tomorrow it won't be. By next week it won't be. And that's the bit where we need to plan for that, and we need to build in that ability to adapt to that change. And that comes from the way that we think and look at and perceive what we can do, and then look first at. I'm a huge Stephen Covey fan, Jonathan.
Oh yeah, me too.
I love how Stephen Covey says that we should always start with the end in mind. So what is that end? What is the goal that we're looking to achieve? What's the end goal? This is business 101, right? It's nothing new here, but taking that age-old approach that works, and then looking at how AI, or which AI tool, is the best served to get us to that goal faster, cheaper, better, all of those things. And that way, then you're never going to be married or tied in to any specific tech.
Well, and I think that's so important, as businesses in particular are looking forward with AI right now, is not getting too closely married with one technology, because things are changing so rapidly that I don't know about you, unless your crystal ball is better than mine, I have no idea what the best AI model is going to be 6 months from now, let alone 30 days from now. So it's very, very difficult. Colin, you mentioned something a minute ago, and I want to go back to, and that was bringing AI into the team. So as businesses, it's easy for us to take a look at it and say, okay, our business needs to integrate AI. We need to start using it. Maybe we need some customer service bots or some sales bots or whatever, and maybe we could use it here and there. But I really think the huge payback, the best ROI, is actually going to be when we start implementing and engaging and empowering our teams to leverage AI. Talk to me about, how do you work with that? How do you get the management teams, the leadership teams to go, okay, this is great for you guys and this is amazing. And yes, a couple of bots would be really cool. But the real power is in empowering your team to start using these tools on a day-to-day basis. How do you help them make that mind shift to see that massive ROI that can happen at that point?
So it leads back to what we mentioned earlier about the two tracks of within and without, right? So typically the way that we approach this is we start with the leadership team, either the CEO or the team around the leader, the SLT or that senior executive board, and then creating that level up in those people, those ability to think with the AI differently, to leverage it as a co-intelligence, and more importantly, to give them the experience, the aha moments, the jaw dropping to the floor moments, like your wife had with the presentation in Gamma, Jonathan. And so from that place of excitement, of curiosity, of eye-opening possibility for what we could do inside of the organization, we then look at creating what we call AI champions, and these create real energetic little nuclei inside of an organization. This works well in like medium and larger organizations where there are like hundreds of people across, you know, and these become almost like an infectious virus, but in a positive way, right? Because these little prototypes that we call them, they then demonstrate both the ROI to the leadership, to the stakeholders, and begin that process of adoption throughout the organization. The worst thing any leader can do is just carte blanche go, hey, we're using this now, and bring the technology first. When you apply the technology, literally 99 times out of 100, it'll fall flat, because it has to follow people, process, technology. And those three things have to flow. They don't have to flow one after the other. They can work concurrently, but all three have to be taken into account. That's why we say it's a change management job, not a technology adoption job in that sense, Jonathan.
I love that. No, and I think you're spot on. How do you find most leadership teams respond to that? Are they open to that? Or is there fear? I know I've seen both sides of it. Some are like, oh yeah, that's amazing. But I've also had some go, I don't know if I really want to trust my team to take and decide where that is. I personally am a fairly big believer that we need to trust the people that are in the trenches to determine where it's best to be used, as opposed to letting the glass offices say, here's where it should be used. What do you see when the rubber meets the road? Because I'm not doing that consulting. You're doing that. What are you seeing in the workplace where that actually happens?
It's no different to that cross section of responses that we see when we do keynotes and we do workshops and stuff for a more general audience. You have a spectrum. You have that spectrum's represented on, like I did a project with a leadership team. There was like 7-8 people in the room, same spectrum. We had the negative Nellies, the fear responders. We had the excited champions and everything in between. And that doesn't change. So this is why the approach of working from the mindset and understanding perspective first, to experience that level up for self, to open the aperture is the key, because we don't know that we don't know, right? And so when we can bring into our consciousness those things that we don't know or perceive, we begin to start the process of understanding. And in starting the process of understanding, we begin to see possibility. So one of the things that we do is we run what we call prototypes. So an AI champion will run a prototype, and then that prototype will be fed back to the team, the results of that prototype. And that'll be, look, this process that took us 15 days now takes us 3 hours. Right? This team of 20 people that are taking 15 days, 2 of them did this in 3 hours. Like literally, that was that kind of thing. And so what that does, that combined with the experiential element, is the thing that just begins the shift, the change, from that one of no to, oh, well, tell me more about that. And then it's interesting, because what I see in that work, working with these leaders week after week, is that it fast becomes an infectious shift in energy. And
yes.
that then finds its way, because the reality of the people in the trenches are already using this technology, whether you like it or not. Your goal and role and duty as a leader is to get a handle on that and to be ahead of the curve, not behind it. Because imagine if those people are throwing sensitive data into ChatGPT without even realizing it. You know,
Exactly.
there are all manner of implications around that. And so this is where it's no longer a jump on the AI train and die kind of a conversation. It's just not that anymore. This is not, we can't cling to our newspaper, our old way of sharing news. Now that we've got this new, like the printing press with newsletters or emails when we were all sending snail mail, right? We can't stick in the old like that, because that's the thing that will just lead to nowhere.
You know, you mentioned something that I think is so true. And I just had a discussion actually with a bunch of educators about this. And in education is, I don't know where by you, but by me, I know it's, oh no, AI is terrible. We can't go there. And the comment I made is, you do realize that your students are using it. Oh no, we've blocked it on our network. They're not. And I'm like, do your students not carry these? And it's the same with businesses. Do your employees, my son, I won't share where, works at a very large international company. And he says, they're not supposed to be using AI, but he sees people all the time using AI. Why? Because it's blocked on the network. But they're not blocking cell phones, which would probably be very difficult to do. And as a result, tons of people are using it. And I love what you said there is, people are going to be using it. Your team's going to be using it, whether you're directing or not. And as leaders, it's our responsibility to make sure they're using it in the right ways, using it responsibly, and in ways that aren't going to cause damage to the corporation or the team or our clients through that misuse, often just out of ignorance, not because they were trying to be negligent, but just out of ignorance. So I love that you brought that up. I think it's such a critical thing for leaders to understand nowadays. It's that genie's out of the bottle, so to speak. We can't go, sorry, you're not going to use it, and then believe that our team's actually not going to do that, because they know how easy it is to write that memo with AI. They know how much time they can save to create that presentation with AI. And at the end of the day, we probably don't care that much what our leaders said when our life is a whole lot easier. So I love that you brought that up. Yeah.
And everybody's doing it. Everybody's doing it. And not only that, these people's clients are asking them, how are you using AI? Like stakeholders across the organization are asking the question of them. How are you using AI in your organization? I want to know. I want to know how you're using my data. I want to know what role AI is playing in all of that. And we can stick our head in the sand as much as we like, but that's not going to help us to steer this thing forward and make a meaningful change in the world,
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
No. Well, one of the questions I love to ask all of our guests, Colin, and I'm really excited especially to hear you because you're doing this on a day-to-day basis. But for that business that's out there that goes, okay, we're not ignoring AI, but we're certainly not really embracing it. I tend to see one of two things. Either we're going to dive in full force, we're going to do everything and we're going to do it today, which generally isn't a good idea, or we're going to continue to stick our head in the sands and act as though it doesn't exist. I'm a big believer in steps. Let's put a plan together. Let's follow that plan and implement that. It's one of the reasons we call this the 91-Day AI Transformation Podcast, is we believe it takes about 3 months in many cases for an organization to start embracing and roll it out and then see those real productivities, that ROI coming in. In your experience, what recommendation would you make to that business leader who's sitting there going, okay, I need to get with it. It's almost the end of 2025 as we're doing this, or I guess we're almost the end of the third quarter. What should they be looking at in the fourth quarter if they said, all right, I want to know, starting 2026, my team is AI proficient, fluent, and responsible. We're using it. What should they do between now and then in order to make that happen from your perspective, Colin?
So there needs to be remember the start with the end in mind, right? There has to be a handle on what's going on inside of the organization. What are the goals? What are the objectives? Where are we heading to? There has to be clarity around that, which AI can help with. And then there has to be clarity around the AI question. So Imagine if AI could, ... And what are those areas and avenues that you can adopt this technology right now? The obvious low-hanging fruits are places where you can save time, save money, find efficiencies, but they're not always the best uses of AI. So there has to be an objective look at, we call it in our process, we call it the dual portfolio. So there has to be areas of both exploit. So we create a little T column, right? So the first column is exploit, second column is explore. And we look at what areas in the organization could we exploit? Could we take a 15-day process and make it a 3-hour one? And that becomes a list of areas that we can focus on. And then what areas can we explore? So how might we become category defining experts in our field by leveraging AI now? Not just how can we save a bit of time or make more money. How can we change the world with the work that we're doing? How can we become net zero in our manufacturing process? How can we change how the world looks at energy manufacture, right? Examples, but
yes,
these are
absolutely.
like outside of the box that literally change everything. And this is a portfolio that you manage then. This becomes a list of things that you can prioritize and begin to both exploit and explore. And the way that you do that is to take a very measured approach. So it's not, as you said, Jonathan, it's not just like, let's just roll this whole thing out. It's about what we call prototyping. So we create a hypothesis. If AI analyzes this data, it might mean that we send 50% less engineers out to fake maintenance calls, right? Or unnecessary maintenance calls. That's a hypothesis. So that could be a potential use case on our portfolio. Let's test it. So let's take a sample. Let's take a small sandboxed sample of data and run the test. And then the feedback from the test will tell us if that hypothesis is likely true or not. And then that becomes the thing that we feed forward. And that at scale, like rapid prototyping, these things happen fast, right? So rapid prototyping is the way that you can reliably adopt this tech, not just to save a bit of money, capture a bit of time back, which is all nice. We all like those kinds of savings, right?
Sure.
In business. But actually to get to those bigger questions of how can we change the world with this tech? How can we completely change everything that we do and be the flagship that stands out? You know, that's where the real opportunity is. Just like we said about the write me an email or think with me or help me to think better. This is that same approach, but in a corporate context of the exploit opportunity and then the explore of how we can literally change the world.
I love that. Absolutely love that. If people want to reach out and connect with you, Colin, what's the best way for them to do so?
Super simple. Best way to connect with me is to head on over to colinscotland.com. All of my resources and contact details are there, Jonathan.
Awesome. Absolutely love it. Well, Colin, thank you so much for your time. As usual, I have a feeling we could talk for hours and hours and hours and kibitz back and forth. I so appreciate you sharing the things that you're seeing real world in the field today and addressing those concerns and questions that business leaders have. So, Colin, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you, Jonathan.
I also want to thank our audience. Whether you're listening or watching on video, we totally cherish you. We do this for you guys, and we want to make sure we're adding tons of value. So we would love your feedback. We'd love your reviews. And again, just as a reminder, this is part 1 of a 2-part series or part 2 of a 2-part series, depending on when Colin and I both release these. We're recording today and tomorrow. Today at my podcast, tomorrow Colin's podcast. So if you're catching one, make sure you go catch the other for some even better insights, because I'm positive Colin's going to ask better questions than I did. So, Colin, thank you again. Audience, thank you. We'll see you on the other side.